Kenya, a land known for its stunning beauty, lively culture, and unyielding spirit. But today, a darkness hangs over this nation. The weight of corruption, the stench of impunity, and the cries of those who are suffering echo through its valleys. This is the story of President William Ruto, the man recently named the most corrupt leader in the world by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. It is a story of betrayal, of power used for the wrong reasons, and of a nation close to falling apart. For years, Kenyans have suffered from corruption, but under Ruto, things have become much worse. The accusations are shocking. Millions of dollars stolen from public funds, essential services deprived of money, and a system designed to benefit a select few at the expense of everyone else. The OCCRP's findings are not just numbers, they are a serious accusation against a government that seems to have lost its way. A government more focused on getting rich than serving its people. A government that has turned its back on the very citizens it promised to protect. This is Kenya's darkest hour. To understand how dire Kenya's situation is, we must look back at its past. In 2007, the country exploded in violence after disputed elections. Over 1,200 people were killed, and hundreds of thousands were forced from their homes. The nation was on the brink of collapse. At the center of this chaos was William Ruto. Then a powerful figure in government, he was accused by the International Criminal Court of planning violence for political gain. Charges of crimes against humanity, including murder, forced displacement, and persecution, hung over him. The world watched in horror. For years, Ruto fought the charges, claiming he was innocent. His supporters rallied behind him, calling the ICC a tool of Western powers. The case dragged on, a constant reminder of Kenya's capacity for violence and division. Then, in a controversial move, the ICC dropped the charges in 2016, citing witness intimidation and lack of evidence. Ruto was free, his record seemingly cleared, but the wounds of 2007 run deep. The memory of those who died still haunts Kenya, and for many the questions about Ruto's role in the violence remain. Today, as the country grapples with new allegations of state-sponsored violence, the past casts a long and worrying shadow. Since becoming president, Ruto has tightened his grip on power ruthlessly. His critics accuse him of turning Kenya into his own personal kingdom, where the law only matters when it suits him. The evidence is strong. Independent media outlets have been silenced. Opposition figures have been harassed, intimidated, and some have even vanished. The judiciary, once a symbol of hope, has been brought under his control, with judges seemingly pressured to rule in favor of the government. But it is the shamelessness of the corruption that is truly appalling. Multi-million-dollar contracts are awarded unfairly. Public funds disappear without a trace, and a culture of impunity allows the corrupt to operate without fear of consequences. Ruto's defenders claim these are baseless allegations, the work of disgruntled opponents trying to undermine his presidency. But the sheer amount of evidence is hard to ignore. From inflated prices for basic goods to suspicious land deals, the stench of corruption fills every level of government. This is not just about stolen money, it is about stolen dreams, stolen opportunities, stolen futures. Every shilling that ends up in the pockets of corrupt officials is a shilling taken away from education, healthcare, and infrastructure. It is a betrayal of the Kenyan people's trust and a recipe for disaster. Behind the facade of economic growth and development lies a grim reality for many Kenyans. Under Ruto's rule, basic human rights are constantly violated. Freedom of speech is under attack. The right to gather peacefully is routinely denied. And extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances have become a terrifying part of life under his rule. The government's response to dissent has been brutal. Protests are met with excessive force. Critics are silenced through intimidation, unlawful arrests, and imprisonment without trial. The police, once seen as protectors, are now viewed with fear and suspicion. The most vulnerable members of society are suffering the most from this repression. Young people who dare to hope for a better future are targeted for their activism. Journalists who expose the truth are harassed and threatened. Human rights defenders who speak out against injustice are labeled as enemies of the state. This is not the Kenya that fought for independence. This is not the Kenya that enshrined the principles of democracy and the rule of law in its constitution. This is a nation on the verge of authoritarianism, where fear silences dissent and the powerful act without consequences.